Got you tagged in there.
Cheers, man.
All right, there we go.
All right. Okay, good.
So how are things from last week?
Oh, good. Yeah, now much better. Thanks.
Everyone's all better.
Yeah. We had it both. Sort of. So there was a lot of taking care going on. How are you, man?
Good. Hoping to get not many. If you know anyone like any, not just on like music or any part of the film, if you know anyone, send them. I'm always looking for new guests.
Oh,
as
sure.
well.
Yeah. Sure. Great. I will.
So, what part of the globe you living on?
From Holland.
Holland, Germany.
No. Holland is its own country.
Excuse me. Oh.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So you have the Netherlands, right, which is also known as Holland, and then Germany is next to it, and then obviously below Holland with Belgium, and then across the sea we have the UK.
The only reason why I connect Holland and Germany, I had a old supervisor with that name, and
Yeah.
who was German, and
Oh yeah, I see. Cool. Oh, really? With the same name?
yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it's a real international name, isn't it? It's just it connects in English, it connects in German, I guess, as well. It probably also connects in Scandinavian languages. I think it's the same word for a lot of languages. It's funny. Cute dog.
Yeah, he's roaming
Is it he or
around.
she?
He's huge.
Yeah. How old is he?
He's just turned 5 years old. Just
so
weighed
cute.
in that he's a big boy, 92 pounds.
Yeah. Big guy.
I love the labs.
The Labradors, yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, cute. I grew up with Jack Russell. You know the type. They're very.
Yeah.
I mean, ours. To be honest, though, ours wasn't like a real typical terrier. It was more of a. It was something in between like a cuddly, warm, dependent terrier, and also a little bit with that terrier edge to it. You know. Oh, you just broke up, man.
I had a terrier. I had a chow before. Had another lab that we had to like give the other lab up because she was just too hyper.
Oh
Like
wow.
15 years ago, or probably 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, they can be a handful.
Pulling up my question bank here. All right, so like just today, what are you excited about today?
Well, today really is things that are happening every day more and more with Homeless Ashes, in terms of things that Mark is doing, the festivals, of course, that we're being, that the film is being sent to. And apart from that is the music. I'm also producing an electronic dance single for the first time, which got some parties in Holland interested. So that's a really fun time. And I'm also working on an art piece for a Hawaiian artist. I want to say she's a free diver who also has this art project going on, and we're doing this thing for Luxembourg, um, which is going to be in 2020, presented in 2020 anyway, the event. So that, yeah, and other than that, chilling with my girlfriend and the house pets that we have. We got 5 pets, so those keep you busy.
Yep, always.
Yep.
When your passion for making music and for films or film, like when do you realize your passion?
Well, it happened really at um, it kind of happened gradually because as a kid we would go on vacations by car, and we would often leave in the middle of the night, and we my dad would put up CDs, and one of them was the album from Mike Oldfield, which is the UK composer, and his album Tubular Bells 2 just really connected with me amazingly. So at the time I didn't know it yet, but that kind of planted the seed for my love for film music, because the album, to me at least, felt very cinematic. There was lots of scenes that I had as a kid in the car that would just fly by in my mind as I was listening and going totally with that album. And then what happened later on is I was kind of like experimenting really with sounds and recordings and just manipulating them, twisting them, tweaking them, and trying to make some musical esque ideas with them. And then I ran into this limit where I wanted to make it into an instrument, but I couldn't. Obviously, I needed one that was actually an instrument. So I went with that, and as soon as I bought a piano for that, for that desire that I had at the time in 2013, it just connected with me straight away. It felt like I wanted to. That was my purpose, that I wanted to make those um, stories musically, at least for to film, to imagery, because I feel like that's connecting two very powerful mediums of storytelling. Because their music really is about like an emotional storytelling, right? In a way, and visuals as can be as well. So that combination to me is just a magic that's unparalleled, I feel.
And I like to ask everyone, like these are my like the first. I think they were included when I was sending in the email too. But what are you grateful for?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, um, I'm grateful for having an upbringing with my parents that was just so musically, because my parents, my first concert was actually Pink Floyd, and they listened to amazing music at home. They would always have these music nights for them, rather than TV. It was always music or TV. That was kind of like their leisure. And my dad, before I was born, also made stereo sets. He made speakers as a hobby, right? It wasn't a thing for money, and at least it was just a passion of his. So he was always very musically invested, very into sound, and my mom is as well. And that filled me up, brought me up with a lot of passion for music as well. Um, and what I'm also so grateful for having met so many amazing people that gave me courage and strength and self, confidence to actually make some more steps to wanting to dare to dream like a little bigger, and to dare to dream and believe in my own potential, which isn't always the simplest or the most natural thing to do. So and then obviously for meeting Natalie, my girlfriend. She is amazing, and has become my, like my counterbalance in life, right? To keep me upright, which just gives me like an emotional and energy strength to just push even harder through it all. You know what I mean? So absolutely that.
Yeah, totally. You need that nudge in the right direction, or maybe to stop you from going maybe too far in the wrong direction.
For sure, yeah. I mean, one of the things that haunted me with that is just like a restlessness. You're just trying to find your next step, as it were, in a way, and you need a home to really be home at, and to feel like you like a heart, your heart has been able to settle, as it were, so that you're free to do, based on that kind of like safe and secure base, to go out and to do the things that you want to do, and to achieve the things that you want to achieve. Yeah, yeah, that helps so much for sure.
How long have you been in the music creating industry? Like, how long have you been doing this?
Well, I started in 2013. I met this lady. She was part of this unofficial ghost hunter team. They were doing like these ghost hunter documentaries in all these different types of houses or castles that had reported, like incidents or just stories about them or myths. And she was working on this new intro that they well, yeah, for their documentary. And at the time I didn't have any experience, but she was a good friend, and she and I kind of had this idea to just make an intro, or for me to make an intro at least about, because I was already doing these kind of like sound ideas and sound recordings and twisting those audio recordings into something musical. um and from there it just grew, right? Like a year later I bought my first piano, and then came the software, and everything compounded really quickly within the year after that. So within 2 years I was attached to a British horror feature, as the composer, because I was just nonstop going about music, reading, learning, listening to everything that it entailed, and everything that's connected to it, which is about the business but also the musical side of it. It's just all the things.
And if you could give someone advice who is you and who is just starting out, what like one advice would you give them?
Well, I think one is to make sure that you view the industry as a group of friends, like a collection of friends, rather than the industry, right? Because it feels like you're not out to get a job. You're out to make more friends, because friends, they prop each other up, they help each other, they, if you're a right fit, trust, it's a very artistic, even though it's business, it's a very artistic business. So having people that you trust to go on this creative endeavor is very necessary. It's very helpful, and it's feels safe, right, as a creator that you want to work with. So making friends is the way to go. Not purely to get jobs. It has to be genuine, because people can pierce through that, that veil of fakery, right? That just, I mean, it's just instantly recognizable. You can smell it even, almost. So it has to be genuine friendship. You have to be genuinely excited about what other people are doing, and able to relay that, and celebrate with them when they're making huge steps. It's that idea of like, a tide raises all ships. You have to kind of believe in that to want to survive and thrive. I feel, for sure. I think that's the biggest giveaway, or takeaway, I would say, for sure. There's also, I mean, if I can run down a list, is that okay?
Sure, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, I think I made some notes here, that it's also very important that you don't look outward too much for like a confirmation on your abilities, um, uh, because it's someone basically telling you if you're doing a good job that you already know. Um, and worst case, it's an echo chamber that has a high bias. I want to really, uh, I would really advise someone to really find your own standard. And that's something someone can help you with, right? What's the right standard for you to want to aspire to and to be known for as well? And then achieve that standard or close to it, or, something that you feel is what you want to be known for. And that will really help you in a mental um, stamina wise as well, because you know for yourself what you can do, which is very important. And you also know what you can learn, which is very important when you're trying something new. You want to always push that comfort zone to something unknown in a creative way. So that's very important, I think, to trust in yourself in that way.
That was a really good, really thought out answer, and I like especially that you said when you didn't say it exactly like this, but you pretty much said to make it your own in a way, like you just make it your
No, you're
own,
right.
find your own standard. That's what you said, and I like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you can, go about that. Don't ignore, what's already known. Don't ignore any rules that are already in place that people play with, but find your own standard. But through that, you will gradually find your own voice, um, through that process as well, for sure.
Yeah, you can find the inspiration from what others have doing for you. My
Yeah,
first
exactly.
my first guest, he said it. I made a little quote post about it too. It's awesome the way he said it.
Mm.
I'm gonna butcher it if I don't, 'cause I don't
Yeah, go for it.
have it up at me, but like he said, learn from the people who came before you so you can stand on the shoulders of the giants. Something,
Right.
and I already ruined that, but it was so good, and that it's along that same line as message. You're
Yeah,
learning from others to make your own
absolutely.
to make
Yeah,
your own thing.
yeah. You have to be fearless in that endeavor. I totally agree. Yeah, man.
What's harder, getting started or keeping it going?
Um, I think so. The hardest thing, it's a difficult one, because the challenges are different for both. Uh, when you get started, the sense of overwhelming unknowingness of the industry, or which paths, which choices to make, which how to get how to get doors open, how to find the opportunities. That can be a very overwhelming path, let alone maybe even the technical side of the things you're trying to learn. um, as long as you're focused on the technical, stay with it. Stay with the technical. Don't worry too much about opportunities. Just make sure you connect with like-minded people who love the art the way you do. That will give you a perfect base to just start off from, when you feel you have like a skill level that you feel very comfortable with, in the right way. You don't want to be too comfortable, right? You want to push the boundaries. um
Yeah,
yeah, so that's one issue. But then when you have it, I think maintaining it is the hardest of the two. um if I think for the same reason, you read so many, or you can find so many things about how to get successful, right? I'm not saying I buy all that stuff, but there's so much out there that the path to success, some kind of success, is a very well talked about subject, I guess. But how to stay with it is the most important and difficult thing, because it tests your personal mental capacity for swings and for the changes. You have to. I think that's why I feel that to have that base, that I talked about earlier, is so important, because you can rely on it in an emotional sense. It gives you strength to go with these swings, which I mean opportunities, because they can come and go. By not giving into too much outward confirmation, about from other people to you, especially in a positive sense. If you don't commit to that too much, that means you'll feel more strength when that kind of fades a little bit, because it always goes up and flow, right? You don't have a consistent feedback on your work. It's always like with a new project, it might shoot up, and then it might die down a little bit. And then you have to be comfortable with that, or not even, concerned about that with that at all. You have to stay focused with what you want to do next. And so networking is a very important, or staying, not falling to your own traps, I guess is what I want to say, is very important that way. So having a good base at home can really help you survive longer, I want to say.
And I was listening to. I'm going to this summit. I my the inspiration who got helped me inspired to create this podcast is actually Lewis Howes, School of Greatness.
Mm,
He does this whole thing about being great, learning how to be and do great things, and he established this and every year it's an annual event. It's in his hometown of Columbus. He he talks with all these people like I do. I talk with filmmakers on my podcast. He talks with people who has seen done great things, and one of the persons who I listened to again the podcast with Ed Milet over here in the States, that he's out here in California, and he says he pretty much when try I had this he's as far as starting everyone when you're starting you're it takes like five, maybe even more, sometimes five reboots. You get started, not right thing, you start again. So you have that energy. You have the energy to just start it, and it's you need it to actually start it because it's probably not going to work the first time. So you have, and and that's why I always like to ask that question. Some people say, "Well, I have the energy to start it, even if it didn't pick up the first time." But because it takes 5, 6, 7 times before you actually get it going within maybe a 5 year period, some people may say it is actually harder to get started. And once you do, then you got a little momentum. You just have to keep it up.
well, it's different. It's different. It's different for different. It's difficult for different reasons, right? To have that, when you start, it's just you have a passion and desire and dream that can be very. I mean, if it's, like, big enough, it can boost you all the way to that first, through that first milestone, with those repeated starts that you were talking about. It can be disheartening as well. Like, it's definitely a roller coaster at times. But that goes for both
Oh yeah.
situations. Yeah, exactly. um, and what's you have to um, the thing, I think, also when you're trying to push through or sustain your success, is that you have to keep developing yourself creatively. So you have to push through those un or those comfort levels to reach that uncomfortableness again, which is harder and harder because you're kind of inclined maybe to do what you already know, and to stick with that. So you have to face your demons, really, what you're kind of afraid of, maybe in a creative way, and just do them. Be fearless in that regard. Um, and that 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 energy, when you have when you start up, there's a lot, you rely on that energy often quite a bit. And then once you reach that first milestone, it kind of can give you, or you can find yourself in this, maybe a little bit of empty space, really. And that's a scary position sometimes, because it feels like, well, you've already done it. What now, right? You can't really rely on that same boost anymore, because you're doing something different now. You have to sustain something. And that can be its own challenges for those reasons. So be willing to uncomfortable is a very, very good um, well, trait really, or skill to develop starting out, but also sustaining your success for sure.
Biggest achievement, or something that achievement you wrote something down, or and something that you're just proud of. I know that's a two-part question.
Yeah. Well, I think it's hard to separate them. I'll try. Well, my biggest achievement, I feel, is really when I found the the my purpose in life in making music. That that changed everything for me. Before I found it, I just went about my life in a very loosely tied fashion. I went through so many hobbies and passions and ambitions that and it went everywhere. Like I wanted to do for a while Chinese medicine. I studied anthropology, social science. I did IT. I wanted to be a professional poker player. I wanted to be a snowboard teacher. Well, there's probably a couple of other things that I missed, but just to give you an idea, I went all over the place. And those things were really things that I was trying to achieve, right? But it never stuck. It just wasn't me. It always felt, I was enthused by it. I loved it, but I never really found it to be me. It just didn't. It felt like someone else's dream that I just tagged along a little bit for some reason. And then once I bought my first piano in 2013, that's when everything clicked. And making that decision to go there and to just, even though at the time I had no legitimate reason or to believe in my own potential or success of any kind, I just wanted to go there to do it. And I felt that's my most proud moment to be able to make that decision and not feel too much self-doubt, not to be illusioned in any way. I knew that it was an uphill thing, but I wasn't, and I wasn't, swayed or what's the word? I wasn't held back by it, by knowing that it was going to be, a challenge. I kind of just embraced it and went in, you know? So that's definitely my proudest and my biggest achievements. Well, I mean, it has to be, in a creative sense, musically, it has to be working with Mark on Homeless Ashes. That's the thing, that the film that touched so many people. It's been a 4-year process for Mark getting the film started. And I met him online when he was making the short film version of it years ago. And through the years, we chatted and we connected. And at some point, we just creatively synced up so much that we thought, like, we want to work together. And having worked with him on this has been absolutely the biggest and most proud achievement that I can look back to for so far. Absolutely. Yeah.
When and every single, whether you're video editor, composer, making a song, when you're creating something, how do you know? Is there a feeling, or is there? How do you know when? Or perhaps if you're working for a script and it says it right in the script, but how do you know when your piece has that touch on it, when it's finished?
That's a difficult line always, every time again, to really, I haven't found the consistent answer to that.
Like, you always want to add something else, but well, you have a deadline.
It's not necessarily adding. I always want to make changes, and that can be adding removing, or just simply changing. Um,
It's all part of that art.
it is. So I don't have that sense of completion with everything that I make. But I do know it. So it does pop its head at some point, every now and then. And when it does, it's very fulfilling. It's, when you feel like this is that moment where it's done, where it's finished. This is the way I want to say it. That's the most beautiful feeling to achieve. Um, and how I know it is, that's a very difficult one. How I know it is you feel it in your gut the same way that you feel something when you listen to music. I mean, for me, musically, most people, right, listen to music and you feel something when you do. And knowing something knowing whether something is finished when you create something is in that same region. It's obviously a little bit different because you're doing it, you're making it, you're creating it, but it's definitely within that same like region that you can barely really put into words, really. Um, but it has to do with knowing what you want to say, how you want to say it, and how you want to move, imaginary, at least, someone's heart, which can be in a lot of different ways, right? In a lot of different emotions or feelings. It can be light-hearted or casual or fun or sad or horrific. It can be so many things, mysterious. Um, so when you have a vision, for what you want to do, what you want to set out to achieve, it's kind of like just waiting for whether or not you can feel that happening once you've finished the creation, right? That's I feel that's got to do with it. That's probably a large part of it. There's probably an X factor somewhere that I can't put my finger on, but I'm sure that's most of it.
And also, I want to touch on too. I get this all the time when I listen to music for the first time, and then when when you get that feeling of this is ready for to be sent out, and then it gets distributed where people can hear it, where it gets put out there, people listen to it. When you get to that point, that's when it can become someone hears something for the first time when they're doing something. Every time they hear that, it becomes a memory trigger, so it works
Yeah,
on that end too, on the listening side.
for sure. Yeah, yeah. But I love that.
And every time they hear it, it triggers an emotion.
Yeah.
It maybe not the same emotion you had when you were making it, but it creates other emotions then too.
But that's the thing about it. It's ultimately it is art. It is an experience. You can't really dictate it, otherwise it would lose the whole essence of it. Um, you're right. It's for the same way people experience movies in different ways. Even though a person or a group of people might like one movie, they might like it for different reasons, or overlapping reasons, but still, with differences. So yeah, you're right, man. Very, very true.
Uh, Pretty much finished the questions I sent over to you that you had, and I know I asked one
Oh,
that I
oh, you can go for anything.
didn't
It's fine.
send, but I
We can.
I like talking to the other another composer a few episodes back, Michael Shine, and that's why I want to, like, especially any creator really. I like, how do you know when your story's finished? That's for more of the creators, maybe not the actors because they're just following a script more or less. I mean, I know they put their touch on the character, but
I guess maybe in terms of when they maybe there are creatively is more of a when they understand the character, right? I guess.
oh yeah. let's go back to what I have here.
Sure.
Rituals, habits, routines, you, anything start your day. Right.
Well, that's I think I'm still trying to figure that one out. Cuz I mean there's so much going on with this household, you know, with 5 pets. Um I mean I drink coffee. That's definitely a ritual that cannot be done without, or at least not start the day without. Um I kind of uh want to make sure I start my day off with just giving, you know, the animals here just a lot of attention and love. We have 2 cats and 2 bunnies and a guinea pig, and they all want attention and food. But they do want attention and freedom and that sort of thing. So I don't want to skimp on that, uh, because that, you know, knowing that they're okay makes me feel more free when I'm done with that. You know. So that's definitely a big part of my daily ritual. And then when it comes to starting a project or well doing anything really creatively, I want to make sure that my studio is tidy. I just want to clean up. Whatever that is, that could mean bringing a cup out, or that could mean just rearranging some stuff, you know, small ones. But that's definitely important for me to make sure that it feels cleaned up, like a blank slate, you know, that you can start writing on, I should say.
I on that lines, I heard from how I don't know if you heard this, but like how the artist always lives in a messy space. Is there any
Oh
truth
yeah.
to like a messy space, creative mind, or is there?
I would totally agree. Yeah, for sure. Like I start off tidy, but it doesn't it doesn't stay that for long. It's just a way of getting myself triggered and started. But once it starts, it feels like everything that you live in is only to serve you in a creative capacity. You know, it doesn't
Mhm.
need to be tidy. It doesn't need to be. It just needs to be, you know, functional. So as long as it's functional and you can, you know, do the things that you need doing and create the way you want to create, um, then it's then it's just perfect because it's the attention to like the surroundings in that way kind of fades away because you're mostly focused on what you want to create, or ideas in your head, or you know, finding a certain headspace. um, that's those parts are what your focus are about or on, not necessarily anymore like, you know, the way your studio looks. It's just not the way. It just becomes less of a priority, I guess, is what I want to say. Yeah.
It's just all part of the current day's workflow. Start clean, get through it, then you just have to clean up at the end of the day.
It does. Yeah, that's definitely like the cycle that you're in. For I mean, that's for me for sure. Yeah.
As for like routine and uh, as who I mentioned before, kind of helped me like get my thinking straight in this. But like as far as a routine, keeping it simple, like you ever like the admiral who said this: if you want to do something great, start every day with making your bed.
Yeah, yeah. I love
So
that. Yeah. His
keep it
speech was wonderful.
keep your routine simple and
Yeah.
just make your bed, drink of water, walk the dog. And walking the dog also will get you some exercise. Just go outside to get you going outside first thing in the morning. If you accomplish like
Yeah.
3 things, that sets momentum for the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also that has to do, I think, also with productivity. That the idea of making your bed, like even the day hasn't even started and you already did one thing. Like that's a way to get that
Mhm.
energy and momentum going for sure. I don't do it. I got to be honest, but I might start doing it at some point. But no, no, no. For me, well, I mean, the animals for me are like an obligation. I can't go around, so taking care of them is kind of like making my bed in that way.
I can see it may be hard if you want to get up and start doing some work at like early in the morning, and if your girlfriend's living with you, she's still in bed. It's kind of hard to make your bed. I could see that.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I could use that as an excuse.
Inspirations. Who inspires you?
um, I honestly,
As like a just a person in the world, not on your work just yet. I'll get to that in a minute. Just as a
yeah.
person.
Well, you know what though is I thought about that question because you did send me a question list, right, before this,
Yeah.
and one of your questions was also that, and I hadn't thought about it before really in any depth, but I realized that there's not really any one person that inspires me most. I mean, there are people that inspire me, right, with what they've achieved, like Mike Goldfield. His creative uh, talent and skill is just incredibly inspiring. So that's that's definitely a name to be named. But what I want to add is that what inspires me on a daily basis is really relationships, the connections between people, but also people between an activity or an object, right? Like, for instance, an instrument or something of the like. Any type of human connection with something of meaning that inspires me because that's emotion, right? Relationships, connections is an emotional thing, and I feel human emotion is is the most beautiful thing that can exist, because that's what gives us life. That what gives us colors in the day, right? Without emotion, everything would just be gray, right? And no, not even shades of gray, just gray.
Mhm.
So yeah, no, it definitely is human connection. Besides naming someone like Mike Goldfield, for sure.
And I had a thought on that, and it just should have written it down. But
That's fine. Well, I can go on a little bit if you want to have a think.
well, to move on, go into your work. Like who, maybe something that you'd want to work on that you saw down the pipeline from someone, or someone who you haven't yet but would like to work with.
Yeah, I mean, if I want to reach for the stars, pun intended, I would want to work with Bradley Cooper. Um, Definitely uh, someone I just have a can't explain it, but I mean the way he works is I just feel like he gets it. That creative process, that vision. That I don't know if he'll ever do a project that would be a good fit for me, because obviously um, he has a ton of musical talent as he proved himself as well. Um, but yeah, Bradley Cooper would be if he would be directing a project, I would be very interested in. Um, Also, a project I'm very interested in is Mark Zammit's Trunk. One of his upcoming films, which is about elephant poetry and child uh, soldiers, I believe. I haven't read the script yet, but um, without a doubt, that's a subject to me that's very dear to my heart. I absolutely love elephants. They are just emotional, smart creatures that have a ton of, I feel, emotional inner life to them, within their society or within their social structure, I want to say. And yeah, that's something I'm very excited for as well.
how do you stay fresh, or how do you stay like, when it comes to content creation, or how do you maybe know the next target, the next result you want to reach, or creation that you want to make? How do you know? How does it come to you?
Well, it's a process in terms of film scoring. It's a process of communication, you know, discussion with the director about vision, about what emotions you want to reach, the contexts, story, the scenes, the beats of the scene, elements within the scenes. It's basically understanding that first, that you have to do that, otherwise you're just flying blind. You have to just, you know, go with what's already there. You have to understand it, and to understand it you have to you know, have a good talk about it. So you kind of go through the film together, and then once you've done that, you already have a pretty clear idea on emotions. And that's for me always like the basis of anything before I want to start, is I want to understand the emotion of it. So with my own ideas and my own vision, coupled with everything that I would have discussed with the director, I find an idea or I begin to form the understanding of what I want to do, what I want to achieve. Then it's just a matter of finding the right tone, the right rhythm, the right you know, sounds to form the score with, which can be anything. And that's something that sometimes you go back and forth on before you find the right one. And that can be something that requires a little bit of feedback also from the director, because it's a process. It's definitely a collaborative process. And then once you find it, it's, you know it. Um, Oftentimes you know it even yourself, because you kind of already have an understanding of what you're going for. Um, so it's definitely by understanding what you want to set out to achieve. So you want to already have your you know, your emotional goals in mind. By having that, you
Mhm.
kind of already know when you hit it or not. Yeah.
Yeah. So before I get to wrap up, maybe one more. Get my. I have like three. I like to call bonus questions that I
Oh,
don't.
go for it. Yeah, sure.
I like to like get not me catch you off guard, but like unscripted, unprepared kind of
Sure.
thing, off the cuff. But one more. When you know, you mentioned a little before about connections. You actually, I like, instead of just being in the industry and connections, you actually said, and you said you're making friends, and I like that. It puts more. It makes it a little more personal to you. How many connections or friends have you had leading to a future role?
Oh, oh, that's a good one. It's a good question. How many? I don't know. A lot. You know, everyone that you meet, you become friendly with on various levels. Sorry, various degrees, I want to say. Um, so hundreds. I want to say, uh, for my first film, when well, I should say I did a short film in Holland. It was a student film, and they only put out an ad. Um, so I didn't even have to have a network at all to go to them by that point. But I kind of applied, sent something in like an audition, kind of like a musical audition in a way, and they liked it a lot. So they, invited me over, and I was competing with a couple of others, I think, and they finally settled on me. Um, but after that short film, I did a British horror film. And that obviously, because I'm Dutch and I do everything from here, from my studio in Holland, I had to use the internet, social media, and everything. So I had to create quite a bit of network. But that too kind of just ended up, but through sheer luck of finding these people who were creating this very ambitious a horror film. Um, I mean, by then I only had met tens of people within the industry as a real genuine network. I mean, I met more people obviously, but within the industry for sure, it's like it wasn't that many. It was below 100. So yeah, that.
So how did that connection help you get the role on the project? I don't know if you just maybe you just stated that, but that was kind of my next question.
Yeah, sorry, I talk a lot.
Yeah.
No, well, it it went through. It was just a couple of conversations that we had, and I hadn't done a feature by then, um, um, and they wanted me to send something as an audition as well. So I created two horror pieces that were very short, but they kind of illustrate a little bit of my music creativity, even though like tonally and structurally it would be nothing like the score I would end up creating. It um, uh, it absolutely persuaded them to want to work with me, which was very. I mean, I was so nervous at that point. I was so incredibly nervous to hear back from them whether or not they liked it enough for me to work with them. But yeah, they did. So that was maybe as simple as sending in an audition, uh, a musical idea, I guess. Yeah.
All right, last one, and we go into the bonus wrap up. A question that no one asks you that you wish people would ask you.
um, yeah, it's a tough one. I don't often think about what people. I guess that's more to do with um, society at large, um,
Yeah.
because there's so much yeah, mental pollution going on these days in societies. So much bickering and outrage and fighting and arguing and um, just kind of soul crushing negativity, I want to say. I have a lot of ideas about that. Not that I That's the thing, right? I don't ever want to get political, or I don't ever want to feel like or talk like I have answers to those things. But I think I do know enough to know that so much of it is misunderstandings on so many levels, where people are just too angry. Just as two people can get in an argument, groups of people can too. And I mean, I'm not naive as to say that that's the issue, because I know there are interests and I know there's the dependencies and influences and stuff like that. But at a citizen level, I feel there's a lot of that kind of going on in the way people approach one another. So it would probably have to do something along those lines. I wouldn't have a question formulated in my mind.
So maybe it's just having just understanding. It may be something. It would be like a project that you can help send a message about. Hey,
Maybe.
saying helping all about make sure you understand the person that you're talking with, where they're coming from before you, and that's and that I'll get into it a little later, but that's kind of the importance of it. It's
Yeah.
we're here to send the message.
Yeah.
So before I get into this, I like to like. Do you have a website or
I do. Yeah, sure. I actually, most
you?
of it, sorry.
You can state it on here, and if you could like email it to me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. So my website is at themarkwind.com. That's Mark Wind with a K and a D. And the same goes for social media. I'm mostly active on Twitter. That's kind of my go-to social media thing. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I do have a page on there, which has been lying, collecting dust a little bit. I give it attention and love every now and then. But mostly Twitter, and my website is at themarkwind.com.
And that's when people, what can people expect to see on the website? Like, is your all your work?
No, yeah, not yet. No, I might do a remaster of the work I've done. Um, what I have on my website really is me in the studio. Just a couple of pictures to show you where I'm working. With a page, a little bit about me. I honestly haven't had the time. I wanted to do a blog as well, but it's been stuck in a little bit in my to-do list. It's one of those things that just haven't had the time yet because I do so much on Twitter that my website is kind of an I don't want to say afterthought, but it's just an extra, a visual extra, I want to say, for people to go to and to check out rather than really the center of what I'm doing. So most of it, what I'm doing is definitely, if you want to stay up to date, is definitely going by visiting my Twitter.
Yeah, for sure. You stop by on Twitter platform Twitter, and you can mention at the Mark Wind, or you could visit his website, themarkwind.com. It's MARKWIND. And before I get to final wrap up, I just want to bring back about the inspiration subject, and I wanted to mention like it's kind of the reason why I continue to do this like podcasting. I grew up, I didn't talk much. I didn't talk to people. People were I made people I still make people nervous when I'm quiet and I pause and I have those unnatural pauses. But I started this podcast 2 years ago, and I discovered, and you mentioned it's that I love talking, connecting, and it's that human connection and that's why I do this. And I discovered, like, if you go back and listen to my first show with Jordan Brady, who I mentioned one of his quotes earlier on, and you can at least I can see my progression, how I'm better conversationalist instead of, yeah, I'm still reading from a question bank that I created, but I'm getting better at making more conversation based on what I hear from like you or from anyone I talk with.
Right.
So this podcast is an inspiration for me to keep talking to people.
Oh, beautiful. So it goes both ways, huh?
Yeah,
You know
and
what?
I
Has so
I
much.
want to I want to connect everyone in the filmmaking world and in the world, all over the world. I want to connect. If I talked with, like I said, another composer, I had another one, but he kind of he didn't he lost he got busy or whatever. He didn't have as much time as he was planning on before, but I talked with other composers, directors, actors, a lot of actors, actresses, but it's this has been an inspiration for me, and I've that Lewis Howes, I have him to thank for helping me get that.
Beautiful. I mean,
But
that's sorry.
oh, go ahead.
No, that's it, right? Finding the dare to just go out and do it.
So as I mentioned in these bonus, he Lewis, my inspiration, he asked these three truths, which I started asking about your last day. What are three truths you have? But I want to make it more about film and creation and
Right.
all that. And this is what I came up with. It's your life is one big story, as it should be, and it's way down the line when there's flying cars and autopilot and cars and all that. What is your perfect life story, the perfect ending to your life story? That's your
So
last
is so is the perfect ending? Do you mean because the first thing that comes to mind is
your perfect end, your absolute, like what you pictured your last day on this earth to be.
right. I think I know what you mean. Yeah, 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 for sure. I actually do have an idea about that. Um, I I want to. It's basically connected to what I want to, where I want to be uh, um, later, which is to live at some place. It doesn't matter which country, doesn't matter near which city, but to live at some place where I live in a reasonably sized um, um, house with a lake, with a lot of trees, nature. That to me is a must have. Well, you run into some practical problems. I'm sure we can overcome that in the future, but that's where I want to have my home studio. You know, in a large shed perhaps, or something attached to the house. Um, and my last day would have to be um, the most fulfilling day that I could imagine, which is to enjoy a walk outdoors with Natalie, my girlfriend, to enjoy the scenery and to compose in the mornings, to have an extensive lunch um, uh, in the in the noon at noon, um, it, preferably outdoors. You know, just where when the weather is good, and um, and then in the afternoon composing more, and then in the evenings have that walk and relaxing at either in front of the TV or uh, anything or any animals that we might have, just relaxing with them. That would be definitely my perfect last day.
It's beautiful. But back on the film subject, why is film important?
Why is film important? Is that was the question, right?
Film, like filmmaking,
Yeah.
as yeah. Why is
Why
that
filmmaking
important?
is because I feel it is one of the most impactful mediums, or maybe the most impactful medium of storytelling that we know. It just connects with such a wide range of people. Uh, I mean, there are people who don't watch movies, but they're not many. Like every time someone tells me that, which is probably like two in my entire lifetime, um, I just don't believe it. Almost, you know. I mean, you know, everyone's different. But I think it's the most important storytelling device, mechanism, tool that we have. And I think stories are important for so many reasons, um, because they have messages, but also they can inspire. It doesn't have to be message laden, but it can inspire to dream, or it can inspire to love, or it can inspire to enjoy, or it can inspire um, to feel like the I don't know. It does so much for our imagination, and then in our imagination, that's where the future is being built. So uh, having a engaged imagination, I feel, is very, very important to move us into that future. uh, we need it. We need imagination, and we don't. I mean, film certainly isn't the only way that we are imagine, or that we are inspired to imagine. There's so many things to inspire us, but I feel a film is the one that can reach, um, one of the film is one of the one of ways that can reach the furthest, I feel, and the most profound. It just permeates throughout all of culture, and reaches billions of people. Yeah, there's no second, I feel, that can come close. And there's so much diversity within film as well, in terms of the way and types of stories being told. uh, that's unmistakably valuable to our society, I feel, to the world, for sure. Oh, I think I lost you on the mic.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I like to mute
I
myself.
see. Cool.
And that was perfect. The last question. What is your definition of creativity?
My definition of creativity is finding my definition of creativity is finding something in the world, in your surroundings or whatever, and putting your mark sounds too harsh, but for lack of a better expression, to put your mark on it, your stamp on it, um, to put like a piece of your heart in it, whether it's that kind of like gravity. It doesn't have to be that, but just a bit of your personality into your surroundings, whether that is something intangible, like a something digital, or it's something very concrete, like a desk or an art piece that you're doing. um I feel it's a giving a bit of ourselves to something beyond ourselves. I think that is creativity, and it can be in a presence, or it can be in the type of present that we may, think of to give someone, or it's definitely that. Um, yeah,
All right. Mic's still on.
yeah, it works.
But I'd like to thank you for just giving me a bit of your time today
Oh man,
to
such a pleasure.
come on, and I'll be check out all his website. Say hey to him on Twitter. Mark at the Mark Win on Twitter, and he has no problem responding. I have no problem at all. Like, he gets back to me right away on Twitter when I was contacting him. This was fun, and I'd like to have you back on one day in the future.
That's a promise, for sure. It's been a lot of fun. Like, I love the way you conduct the interviews, and like, you can genuinely see a passion for the experience of the other person that you're interviewing. And I think that's an amazing talent and skill to have. So I would love to be on again for sure.
And coming saying that to like someone who didn't never like to talk, that's like a huge compliment to me.
Well, I think it's in it's you can see it. It's within you. It's in your mind. The experience is all there, and it's coming out through all these amazing questions, and you can see that you have a true passion for it, and it's just a lot of fun being with you on this. So thank you.
All right, and we can end it there,
Cheers.
and we can. You have anything else to add before we?
Yeah, so follow me on Twitter. There's something, there's a lot of stuff coming up with Homeless Ashes. It's doing for from Mark Zamet, the director. And I'll be sure to keep everyone updated in the loop about that as well. But also regarding maybe some near the future, my new single that might release pretty soon. There may or may not be already a Dutch label in the process of it. So yeah, hopefully there's a lot of good news to be announced soon on that.
I don't know. I hope. I think I was, but if I'm not, I definitely have to get on it. But are we? Am I seeing you on Instagram? I'd like to see some you said you're newer to Instagram. I like to see get on the story at Twitter. They're all kind of doing it these days. Like Twitter, even Twitter, they have the moments. If you're
Yeah,
in the
true.
right, like create one of those stories one day, and I'll see you around too
Yeah, I will. Absolutely. Thanks, man.
as a challenge.
I'll accept.
All right, and I'll let you go. And till next time.
Have a wonderful day, man.
All right, you too.
Thank you.